I picked up my wife's phone to check the weather. Instead, I found a message from my brother. Same room again? Hope you still remember how to stay quiet. That was the moment I realized. My marriage, my business, my family, it was all built on a lie. And I was done playing the fool. It started with one lazy swipe. Her phone was lying face down on the counter while she showered, blasting some indie playlist she uses when she wants to feel in her zone. I didn't mean to snoop. I was just trying to check the weather. But the screen lit up with a message preview from someone saved as Z, just the letter. Not Zach, not Zachary, not even Z, just Z, like we're all playing spy games now. My heart did that slow, cold thud thing. I tapped the chat. Same room again? Hope you still remember how to stay quiet. You know that moment when your brain tries to lie to you, when every fiber in you screams don't jump to conclusions, but your body already knows the truth. I knew. Zach, my brother, my fucking brother. He'd just gotten back from a conference in Atlanta, same weekend she was at her branding retreat in Asheville. I remember because Ivy, our kitten, knocked a glass off the counter that Sunday night, and I had to clean up alone while staring at 2 untouched dinner plates. The timing matched, the hotel receipts matched, and the message history, once I dug deeper, it all matched. What hit hardest wasn't just the betrayal, it was how casual it all looked. Their messages weren't even passionate or dramatic. They were mundane. Logistics, quiet laughter, plans to be careful next time. Like this wasn't their first time. Like I was the background character in their twisted little script. That night I sat in the kitchen with Ivy curled in my lap, lights off. I stared at our family photo on the fridge. Thanksgiving, everyone smiling too wide, my wife leaning into me, Zach next to her, hand resting just behind her chair. My mom had said, "You 3 look so tight-knit." That photo used to make me proud. Now it made my skin crawl. I couldn't sleep. I stopped eating dinner. I started counting the silences. How she didn't ask me how my day was. How Ivy started hiding under the bed when she walked in. How Zach hadn't called in weeks, after we used to talk almost daily. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to be sure. I spent 2 weeks digging into old messages, financial records, even cloud backups. I felt like a man sifting through the ashes of his own house, trying to find one piece that hadn't burned. And then the fire spread. She filed for divorce, claimed emotional distance, that she didn't feel safe with me anymore, that I was too controlling. Zach didn't show up for the mediation. He sent a lawyer. My own brother sent a fucking lawyer. That's when it all went nuclear. They were trying to take everything, not just half the house. My stake in the business, the one I built with Dad before he passed, the one Zach only stepped into because I let him. Even my cat, Ivy. They argued she was more bonded to her. Ivy, who slept on my pillow every night I didn't cry myself to sleep. My parents? Neutral, spineless. We love you both. We don't want to take sides. As if silence is anything but a side. Weeks passed in courtrooms and conference calls. I felt like I was dissolving. Like someone had peeled me out of my own skin and replaced me with a hollowed-out version. I didn't even flinch when the judge ordered a freeze on our joint accounts, pending equitable division. I started spending my nights in the office, drinking too much, eating takeout straight from the bag. Ivy kept me grounded, curling up by the cold fireplace like she understood something I couldn't say out loud. Then, last Tuesday, I got an email. From Erin, our longtime accountant. Found something weird in the books. Can we talk? We met in her office, the one above the sandwich shop downtown. I still remember the smell of vinegar and onions clinging to her desk. She showed me the transactions. Zach had been skimming from Mom's medical fund. Not just small change, tens of thousands, hidden under bullshit vendor names and fake consulting fees. He was also draining small amounts from the business into personal accounts I never authorized. I felt the rage hit like a freight train, but it wasn't just anger. It was something cleaner, sharper, purpose. They wanted to strip me of everything, my home, my name, my pride. But Zach got greedy, and greedy men always leave fingerprints. I looked at Erin, hands shaking. For the first time in months, I didn't feel helpless. For the first time, I felt ready. Not for revenge, but for resurrection. The first person I called after leaving Erin's office was my lawyer, Dennis. He picked up on the second ring, groggy and half awake. The man sleeps like a bat. But when I said Zach's name and embezzlement, he snapped to full alert. "Send me everything," he said. "Every transaction, every name." By midnight, he had it all. It was surreal. Seeing Zach's betrayal laid out in spreadsheets, amounts, dates, phantom vendors. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment betrayal. This was long con. Strategic. Cold. Months, maybe years in the making. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to sleep. I did neither. Instead, I walked into our old bedroom and opened the safe. She'd changed the combination months ago. Said she forgot the old one. Now I understood why. It took me a half hour, but I cracked it. Inside, I found her passport, cash, a thumb drive, and a single printed photo. The three of us, me, her, and Zach. New Year's Eve. I was kissing her cheek. Zach was looking at her. Not me. Her. I slammed the safe shut. That night, I moved into a motel off I-40. Ivy came with me, curled into a ball beside the microwave. I stared at the ceiling until morning, trying to figure out who the hell I'd been sleeping next to for the last 10 years. The next few days blurred. Depositions, freezing accounts, Dennis filing motions like a machine. But the emotional damage, that part was slower, meaner. My mother called, said I was overreacting. He's your brother. He's a thief, I said. She started crying. Told me this would kill her. I wanted to say you let him rob the fund that pays for your chemo, but I didn't. I just hung up. I started getting messages from her friends. You should talk to her. She's not the enemy. Zach's a good man who made a mistake. Mistake? Mistake is forgetting a birthday. This was betrayal with a paper trail. Meanwhile, she, my ex, almost ex, whatever she was now, lawyered up harder. Her new attorney sent a revised settlement offer. They wanted the house, my stake in the business, and Ivy, the fucking cat. Dennis said, "They're pushing to break you." They were close. But then Erin texted again. One sentence. There's more. What she found buried deep in the records made the first fraud look like an appetizer. Cross charges between personal and nonprofit accounts, payments to consultants who didn't exist, and a donation Zach forged from my name to himself. It was enough. Dennis filed criminal charges. I expected rage, panic. But what I got? Silence. Then a knock on my motel door. It was her, hair tied up, no makeup. Just a face I no longer recognized. "You're ruining him," she said. I looked her dead in the eyes. "No," I said. "He did that all by himself." She opened her mouth to say something else. I shut the door in her face. That was the first night I slept through till morning. Ivy purring at my side. For the first time in months, I didn't dream about losing everything. I dreamed about starting over. 3 days after I filed the charges, Zach called me. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something in my gut said pick up. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was spite. "Hey," he said, like we were about to grab a beer. "Can we talk?" I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I know things look bad," he started. His voice was low, almost fake calm, like a salesman trying to sell you back your own wallet. "But we're family, man." That word, family. I laughed. Actually laughed. Out loud. Sharp and ugly. "You stole from our mom's chemo fund, you fucking bastard," I said. "Don't ever use that word with me again." There was a pause. "I didn't think you'd go nuclear," he said, still calm. Like I was overreacting. "You're a piece of shit, Zach. You didn't just fuck my wife. You fucked over your entire family and you thought I'd roll over and take it? I didn't steal. It was just creative reallocating. You know how tight things got when the business slowed." I hung up. That was it. Whatever tiny ember of doubt I had left, that maybe there was some explanation, some weird misunderstanding, it died right there. He was trying to gaslight me with a fucking felony. The next week was war. His lawyer filed a countersuit. Claimed I was retaliating because my mental instability had driven my wife away. They even brought up some therapy notes I had from after Dad died, like grief makes you legally incompetent now. Then came the worst blow. I got served with a request for temporary possession of Ivy. They wanted the cat, the fucking cat. Dennis looked at the papers and said, "They're playing games, hoping you snap. Don't." But I almost did. I actually sat in my car that night, keys in the ignition, just staring, trying to figure out how it all got this fucked. And then came the second break. Erin called again. This time she sounded shaken. She'd found a second account, under a dummy LLC Zach registered 3 years ago. It had almost $90,000 sitting untouched, all drawn from company funds, funneled quietly through maintenance contracts he'd invented. It was ironclad. "Can we hit him with this now?" I asked Dennis. "Absolutely," he said. "This isn't just theft anymore, it's fraud, wire fraud, IRS-level shit." I forwarded everything. The next morning I walked past the courthouse steps. No tie, coffee in hand, eyes dead ahead. My ex was there, waiting with her lawyer. She tried to catch my eye. I didn't blink. Inside, Dennis leaned over and said, "They know, you can see it." He was right. She looked pale. Zach wasn't even there. They were trying to delay, refile, negotiate behind closed doors. Too late. That afternoon, an arrest warrant was issued. Zach got picked up in his driveway. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. It hit the local news by sundown. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel anything. Just quiet. That night, I sat in my motel room, Ivy curled up on the window ledge, city lights flickering outside. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath. Not because I'd won, but because the bullshit had stopped. Truth finally did what I couldn't. It spoke for itself. The news broke faster than I expected. Local businessmen arrested in multi-thousand-dollar fraud scheme. They didn't name me, just family business, misuse of charity funds, pending divorce. But anyone who knew us, they knew exactly who it was about. By noon, my phone blew up. Old coworkers, distant cousins, even my high school football coach. My mom, she left me a voicemail that started calm and ended in screaming. "How could you do this to your brother, to this family? He's not a criminal, he's your blood. You don't call the fucking cops on blood." No mention of the money, no mention of the foundation. Just pure, blind panic that her golden son was being dragged into court in handcuffs. I didn't reply. I just blocked her number. I was done bleeding for people who'd cut me with a smile. Meanwhile, my ex, Julia, went into full PR mode. She filed a motion to distance her legal identity from Zach's charges. Her lawyer spun some fantasy about her being emotionally manipulated and unaware of any financial misconduct. Bitch, please. She forged documents for him. There were emails, approvals, expense reports in her handwriting. Dennis said, "She's scrambling. Let her dig her hole." But the kicker? She showed up at my motel. Again. Knocked at 10 p.m., hoodie pulled low, like that could make her disappear. I opened the door half an inch. "I just need to talk." I should have slammed it in her face. Instead, I stepped outside, shut the door behind me. 5 minutes. "I didn't know what he was doing," she started. I raised my hand. "Stop. Just fucking stop. You signed the goddamn invoices." Her face crumpled for a second like she thought maybe tears would still work on me. "You think I was happy?" she said. "You think I wanted this? He promised me we'd be set, that it would just be temporary until I what? Gave up everything I built, rolled over and watched you walk away with my house, my company, my cat?" I stepped closer. "Ivy," I said slowly, "hates you. She pisses in your shoes. Did you seriously think you could co-own her?" She flinched. "Zach's going to prison," I said. "You might be right behind him. Or maybe you'll just be publicly humiliated, which, honestly, might hurt you worse." She tried to speak again. I walked back inside. That door will never open for her again. The next day, Dennis filed a motion to dismiss all claims from her side. The judge, finally seeing the full picture, froze her access to the business and the house. It was a quiet victory, but I felt it in my chest like a slow breath after weeks of drowning. I took Ivy to the old office, now empty, sat her on the front desk. She blinked at me like nothing had ever happened. I looked around at the dust, the quiet. This place used to be my life. Now, it was just a shell. But for the first time, I didn't feel bitter. I felt ready. It wasn't about taking back what they stole. It was about becoming someone they couldn't touch again. Not with guilt, not with lies, not with love. I thought things would calm down after Zach's arrest. They didn't. Julia filed an emergency motion 2 days later, claimed I was emotionally unstable and retaliatory, that I'd created an unsafe environment for future mediation. Her lawyer submitted some therapist notes I'd written back in 2018, when Dad was dying and I was going to grief counseling. They actually tried to argue that my mourning made me a threat. Dennis looked at the papers, snorted, and said, "This is a fucking clown show." But it still hit me. Hard. Because they were digging into anything they could. Weaponizing pain, twisting memories, trying to rewrite the entire narrative like I was the dangerous one, the abusive one, the one who drove them to all this. I started having trouble sleeping again. Not from fear, from fury. This wasn't justice. This was psychological warfare. Meanwhile, Zach's arrest made headlines again. Apparently, the DA was considering adding mail fraud and tax evasion to the charges. A federal angle. That meant serious time. Not months, not probation. Years. Julia's lawyer must have sensed which way the wind was blowing because they tried to settle, offered to drop all claims if I agreed to a public no-fault statement and a sealed settlement. Translation? Eat shit in silence and pretend none of this happened. Dennis asked me what I wanted to do. I said no. I said, we go all the way. She didn't see that coming. 2 days later, her friend Kelsey messaged me, some half-assed, just checking in. I heard you're going through a lot kind of text. I knew what it was. A probe. Seeing if I was bitter, broken, softening. I replied with a screenshot of her name listed as a cosigner on one of the fake vendor invoices Zach had created. No words. Just that. She blocked me within an hour. That night, I drove back to the house for the first time in months. Not to go inside, just to see it. It was dark. No lights in the windows. Grass overgrown. Trash bins overflowing at the curb. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene wrapped in drywall. I sat in the car for a while with Ivy purring in the passenger seat. Then I grabbed my phone and opened the voice memo app. I don't know why. Maybe just to hear myself say it out loud. They thought they broke me. They thought I'd roll over, but I'm still here. And the only thing they taught me is that I'll never let anyone close enough to fuck me like that again. I saved it. Not for court. Not for Dennis. Just for me. Because the truth is, this wasn't just a divorce. It wasn't just fraud. It was a full-scale erasure of everything I thought I was. And now I was rewriting the story. In my own words, on my own terms. The morning of the preliminary hearing, I ironed my own shirt. That probably sounds like nothing. But when you've been living in a motel for weeks, eating cold takeout on a cracked nightstand, even that small act, pressing out the creases, feels like claiming something back. I looked in the mirror. Same face. Just a little more hollow around the eyes. A little less trusting. Court was packed. Press showed up. Local reporters jockeying for quotes. Zach came in wearing a borrowed suit, hands cuffed, face slack like a man who finally ran out of lies to tell himself. He avoided my eyes. Coward. Julia didn't show. Her attorney claimed medical fatigue. Translation: hiding from the fallout while she figured out which bridge she hadn't burned yet. But the real gut punch came from the people I did see. Our mom, sitting on Zach's side of the courtroom. Not beside him, but behind. Just enough distance to keep plausible deniability. She didn't look at me once. I stared for a long time anyway. I remember being 7 and breaking my wrist on the monkey bars. She carried me to the car barefoot. Now she couldn't even cross the aisle. The hearing itself was quick. Charges laid out. Bail denied. Flight risk. The judge read off the list of violations, and it felt surreal hearing the truth laid out like a grocery list. Fraud, embezzlement, wire transfers, tax falsification. Each word like a bullet through the image of the family I thought I had. Afterward, outside the courthouse, I stood alone. Press circled. Microphones came out. Do you have a statement? I did. I stepped forward. My brother didn't just steal from a business. He stole from our mother's treatment fund. He betrayed our family, our trust, and now he'll answer for it. One sentence. Direct. Cold. I didn't stick around for follow-ups. Back at the motel, Dennis called. Said Julia's legal team was in full retreat. They were offering a total withdrawal from all shared assets. No more claims to the business, no more fight for the house. Just Ivy left on the table. I told him I'd pick up the papers myself. That night, I walked into what used to be my home. It felt wrong, like walking into a dead man's apartment. The air was stale. The walls somehow emptier than I remembered. Ivy followed me, tail twitching. In the living room sat a small box labeled Yours. Inside, a framed photo of me and Zach from high school, a watch I hadn't worn since college, and Ivy's kitten collar. She really thought that was enough to buy forgiveness. I threw the box in the trash, stood in the hallway, and for the first time, I spoke into the silence. I survived both of you. And I meant it. Because this wasn't about getting my life back. It was about building a new one they'd never touch again. The fallout came fast and brutal. Zach's mugshot hit local news like a grenade. No more beloved local entrepreneur. Now he was charged co-founder in ongoing financial misconduct case. Headlines ran with it. Social media did what it always does. Ripped the mask off and roasted the face beneath. And Julia? Oh, she panicked. Her lawyer tried calling me directly. Let's resolve this quietly. Think about your reputation, your future, your family. I told him to go fuck himself. He paused, then asked if Ivy could stay with her until things settled. I laughed, the bitter kind, the kind that starts deep in the gut and claws its way out. She forged bank documents, I said. She doesn't get to babysit my cat. Click. A few days later, I got a letter. Handwritten, from Zach. No envelope. Just folded sheets of hotel notepad paper, stuffed in a county jail mailer. It smelled like sweat and bullshit. He started with, I'm not asking for forgiveness. So, of course, the next 4 pages begged for forgiveness. He blamed stress, debt, the pressure of expectations, how he lost himself trying to keep up, how it started small, how Julia pushed and manipulated, how he only kept going because he thought I'd be fine, because I always land on my feet. Then the kicker, I never meant to hurt you. That line, it fucking cracked something open in me. Because yeah, you did. You meant every second of it. You meant it when you kissed her, when you made the transfers, when you forged my name. You meant it when you sat across from me at Sunday dinners and smiled like you weren't gutting me from the inside out. I crumpled the letter and tossed it in the motel trash. Ivy pawed at it, like even she knew it didn't belong in our space. That night I couldn't sleep. I stood out on the motel balcony, the cold eating through my shirt, and stared at the city lights. And I realized I didn't want the house back. Or the business, really. Not like it was. That old life was tainted, hollow. I wanted clean fire. So I called Dennis the next morning. Let's sell the house, I said. I don't want it. You sure? Yeah. Let her keep the echo. He didn't ask more. The next few weeks were a blur of filings, signatures, slow closures. I sold my stake in the company to a silent partner who'd been circling for years. Got a fair price. Enough to restart somewhere else. Somewhere quiet. But before I left, I did one last thing. I bought Mom a year's worth of medical supplies, quietly, through a third party. No name, no note, no from your son. Just what she needed. Because I may be a lot of things. But I'm not him. Then I packed up my car, Ivy in her travel crate. 1 box of clothes, 1 box of tools, 1 envelope with Zach's letter, still crumpled. We pulled onto the highway before sunrise, and I didn't look back. Not once. I thought leaving would feel like escape, but it felt more like an amputation, clean, cold, permanent. The first few nights in the new place, a rented cabin 2 hours north tucked in pine trees and silence, I kept waiting for the phone to buzz. Some last-minute twist, one more betrayal crawling out of the ashes. Nothing came, just quiet. I set up the essentials, bed, desk, coffee maker. Ivy found a sun-warmed spot on the windowsill and claimed it like royalty. The air smelled like moss and wood smoke. And for the first time in years, I could hear myself think without filtering every thought through what would Julia say or what would Zach want. Turns out my own voice? Still there. Just buried under bullshit. I started writing again. Just scraps. Journal entries, observations, shit I hadn't said out loud in years. I wrote about guilt, anger, grief. About how betrayal isn't just a wound. It's a mirror. Shows you every part of yourself that let it happen. And one night, I wrote something that stopped me cold. Maybe I needed to lose everything to remember who the fuck I was before they got their hands on me. That sentence stayed with me. I printed it, taped it to the wall. Meanwhile, back in the real world, shit was crumbling. Zach's trial date was set. Federal. They added wire fraud, tax evasion, obstruction. Julia got subpoenaed. Her plea deal leaked. She'd agreed to testify in exchange for immunity on 2 charges. That's how it always goes, right? The rats jump ship but sell each other out on the way down. Dennis kept me updated, but I barely responded. I didn't care about headlines anymore. I wasn't chasing justice. I'd already won. I wasn't bleeding. They were. But healing? That part didn't come easy. Some mornings I'd wake up convinced it was all a dream. The divorce, the fraud, the courtroom stairs. And then I'd walk to the kitchen and see Ivy watching me. And I'd remember. This is real. I'm still here, and that matters. I started fixing things. The leaky faucet, the broken heater. Little acts of repair that reminded me life wasn't just about survival. It was about reclamation. One afternoon, while unpacking the last box, I found the family photo. The one from the lake house, the one with me in the middle, Julia on my right, Zach on my left, smiling, laughing, picture perfect. I didn't cry, I just stared. Then I tore it in half. Not in rage, but like someone finally editing the cast of a show that should have been canceled years ago. I burned their halves in the fireplace, kept mine, folded it once, slid it into my journal. Because yeah, I was broken. But I wasn't finished. Winter came early in the mountains. Cold that crept through the walls and settled in your bones if you let it. I liked it. It matched me. By then, Zach was officially indicted. Federal trial locked. Julia's plea deal had gone public. And with it, the full picture. She'd not only helped fake vendor records, she'd opened the account that funneled charity money. Her signature, her name, her idea. She threw Zach under the bus to save herself. He deserved worse, but still. Poetic. Mom called. Somehow got my new number. I didn't pick up. Let her voicemail rot in the inbox. He's your brother. He's lost everything. You got what you wanted. That's the part that hit me. As if I wanted any of this. I didn't want revenge. I wanted a life that didn't require armor. A kitchen where I didn't have to wonder who she was texting. A business I could build without betrayal coiled inside it like a ticking bomb. But no one gives you that. You build it, or you bleed for it. So that's what I was doing. Rebuilding. One night, I drove into town, to a little pub with bad lighting and decent bourbon. I sat in the back, scribbling notes on napkins, when the bartender, some guy named Theo, slid over a drink I didn't order. From the woman by the jukebox, he said. I looked. She smiled. Short hair, flannel shirt, no makeup. Just real. Solid. Present. I didn't go talk to her, not that night. But I didn't throw the drink away either. It sat there while I finished writing. Trust isn't built. It's grown. Slowly. On scorched earth. One honest word at a time. That's what I wrote. Not for her. For me. Back home, I found Ivy curled up in the laundry basket. I scratched behind her ears and whispered, "We're okay now, huh?" She blinked slow, like always. And for the first time in a long damn time, I believed it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was just done surviving. It was time to start living. The day of Zach's sentencing, I didn't watch the live stream. Dennis offered to forward the court transcript. I told him to shred it. I didn't need details. I didn't need to hear his bullshit apologies read into the record. I didn't want to see his lawyer spin a sob story about a man under pressure. Let the system do what it does. 27 months. Not enough. But not my problem anymore. Julia, for her part, vanished. Social media deleted. Her friends dropped her like a bad stock. One of them, the same Kelsey who texted me weeks ago, messaged again. Said Julia moved in with her sister to recover. Recover from what? Getting caught? There was a time I'd have cared, maybe even pitied her. That time was gone. I spent that evening not in a courtroom, but on the back porch of my cabin. Snow melting on the railing, fire pit crackling low, ivy curled at my feet. I had a beer in one hand and a small notebook in the other, the same one I'd been writing in since the motel days. Inside it were pages of truths. The worst day of my life. The slow, quiet rage. The moment I realized I didn't need revenge. Just clarity. And at the back, a short list. Things I still believe in. Coffee at sunrise. Honest work. Silence that doesn't feel like punishment. Loyalty earned, not assumed myself. That last one took the longest to write, but I meant it. A week later, I finally went back to the city. Closed out old accounts, met with Dennis one last time, signed papers, officially dissolved the business, donated the last of Mom's fund to a real cancer nonprofit. Anonymously. No glory, no press release, just closure. Then, before leaving town, I did one last thing. I stopped by the lake, the one from the family photo, the place I used to think of as peace. I stood on the dock with Ivy in my arms. The water was dark and still. I pulled out that torn photograph, just my half, folded and faded, and I let it go. Watched it drift, sink, disappear. That wasn't me anymore. That was someone who thought love could fix anything. Someone who believed blood always meant loyalty. Someone who trusted the wrong people because they shared his last name. Now I trusted one person. The man who survived all of it. Me. And that was enough.